I know when I started quilting, squaring up a quilt was really difficult for me and I wasn't quite sure how to do it. So I thought I'd make this video to show you how I do it using a very small table topper quilt that I made, and it would just give you an idea of my thought process and the way I work through it to make sure that it's square, or at least square-ish. But before we get started, my name is Chris O'Neill from Sew the Distance. Thank you so much for joining me. So let's look at how I square up a quilt. So I've already quilted this, and I have the backing, the batting, which I used a fusible, which was really nice. It was an interesting fusible, and I quilted it on my Juki, so it's nice and done. Everything's together, beautiful. So what you're going to do is you want to make sure that you call something at least straight. Of course, the easiest way to square something up is to have a ruler the exact size of the item that you're squaring up, but I don't have that. You can see that the table topper is a little bit bigger. So what I'm going to do is come down here to the corner, and I'm going to get it as straight as possible, and I'm using all of these lines to determine square or straight, okay? Because I wouldn't want to even like twist it like this, like twist it a little bit, because then the whole quilt would look wonky, or the whole table topper would look wonky. So I'm going to get it as square as possible. It is fabric, so it might not be perfect, but using these lines, I want it to look as square as possible. So I have the big ruler, the biggest ruler I have, down in this corner, you can see, okay? And I have it right on the edge, but you can also see how there is some pieces that are hanging out. I'll pull that up there so you can see that. So I'm going to have to trim some of this off to get it nice and square. And the other thing I want to pay attention to are my points, and make sure that I have about 1/4 of an inch from the point to the end of the ruler. So that looks pretty good. The next step that I'm going to do is take my rotary cutter, and I'm going to cut about 3/4 of the way up here and 3/4 of the way on this. Now, normally I'd be less awkward because I wouldn't be doing it on camera, but I'm going to try to do it on camera so you can see here. So I'm just going to cut and then veer off, just like that. Okay. And then I'm going to do this other side too, the same way. So if you can, which is what I'm going to do, go to the other side of your table. To do this, press down and veer off. You can see I have a little bit of overhang here that I need to trim up. Of that. All right, so now I know that this corner is straight, okay, and that's going to be my guide. So let's do the next one. I also know this line's straight, so I'm going to come over here and do the same thing on this side. Now, if you can't get around to the side of a table, you can always turn your mat. That works too, but the idea is not to really move it after you get it nice and square, and that looks pretty good. You can also, if you want to, take another ruler and line it up and make sure you're straight, which it looks really good. Okay, so I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to go up part way. I'm going to go over here to the other side and cut the rest of that off. So now I have 2 corners that are perfectly square, or just about, because it is fabric. So I'm going to turn this. I know that that's perfectly square, and it looks really good. So I'm going to slide over to this side, keeping it straightish, or straight as possible. Keep going. Now this side has a lot more overhang here. I don't know if you can see it, where maybe the bias shifted or something like that. But the point is, you want to get it so it looks straight. So that might, I might lose those points. And you know what? That's okay. That's okay. This is supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be stressful. And you just want to make sure that you get as much of the fabric in as you can and that you have it lined up. So here we go. Okay, yeah, look at that. That is dead on. If I'm using the lines on my mat, I am really, really straight. So now I'm going to do this final one, and I'm just lining it up. Get it as straight as possible. And I'm cutting this edge. Then I'm going to awkwardly cut this edge too. Now I did lose those points, but that's, again, okay. Nobody's going to notice. Well, quilters might notice, but no one else will notice. Okay. I'm going to use my scissors just to get that little tiny piece off because I want my points when I do my binding to be good. All right. So now you have a perfectly square table topper. There it is, and we're ready to do the binding. I hope you enjoyed seeing that. Now, of course, if you had a bigger quilt, you'd use more rulers. You maybe would move your mat around, but the important part is to make sure those corners are nice and square, and starting with at least one corner that you're calling square and squaring up the rest of it to that particular corner. So that will allow it to at least look straight, hopefully be straight. If you have to fudge it a little, even in the middle, you can, and just kind of ease it in to get it straight. I hope to have a video soon on a bigger quilt and exactly how I square it up and a few different techniques that you can use. If you have any questions, please let me know. And as always, take some time to sew. I'll see you soon. Bye.